I ain't got no tea, but if I did, it would be hot.
Oh no, I ain't got no tea, but if I did, it would be hot.
I said
I ain't got no tea, no, but if I did, it would be hot. 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 It would be hot.
Hello, Literates. I'm Britt Ryderly, and I am with the amazing KaShay Warren from ShayWithThaHobbies. I'm so excited because we are doing a new series. Okay, so this is going to be part of a series called Ryderly Conversations that Shay and I share on our channel. So the first one is going to be here in the land of Literates, and the next one in January 2021, bless that year, is going to be on Shay's channel, ShayWithThaHobbies. Okay, so this is the third day of KWANZAATHON, and what an amazing day to start a collaborative series, because the third day of Kwanzaa is Ujima, and that is for collective work and responsibility. And so I'm so excited to start this Ryderly conversation series by collaborating with a Black booktuber who I respect so much, and who was just so kind to reach out to me when I was just a new book I still am, but like real early on, was like, hi, like, so appreciated. So today we're going to be talking about diversity and Black storytelling and what readers think is a Black story. So now that I've said all of that, Shay, word in edgewise, hello.
Hi, everybody. I am KaShay, and I write short stories, poetry, and the occasional blog post. And I have spent like a lot of this year trying to like read more Black books. Like that has been like the focus. So I'm like super excited for this topic because I've definitely expanded my realm of Black readership in the last 11 months. So I'm excited.
Okay, so how do you want to start? We're just chatting and they're just here. So we're talking about diversity in Black storytelling. What, when you think about diversity in Black storytelling as it currently exists on this day that we're recording, how do you think about diversity as it comes to Black storytelling? And you can say that like as a reader and as a writer.
Okay, so as a reader, I have come to see that what I have seen a lot of is a lot of stories that like center around how hard it is to be Black and like the struggle of being Black, in comparison to other stories. Like when I was a kid, there were like, you know, the Babysitters Club and the Boxcar Children and Nancy Drew and all these people, and their stories didn't revolve around their tragedy or whatever happened to them. Like there were still like joyful moments and them just getting to enjoy being a kid and things like that. And I found that whenever I would read stories and it would be like a Black main character, even in our stories, Black children don't get to be children. And that was something is something that like I try to strive against. In the books that I search out and seek to read, and then also in the books that I write and the characters I portray. So I think that was something. I also realized, at least for me, there always seemed to be more books about Black girls than there were about Black boys. And that always kind of like bothered me. And I didn't know if it was just what was mainly marketed towards me at the time, but like the books that stick out to me that were for boys that I remember when I was a kid were like Walter Dean Myers and Christopher Paul Curtis. And then that was like the end of it for what was around when I was a kid. And there were more Black stories. Like we had we had Addie from American Girl, and then we had the different Black stories in the Dear America series, and there weren't necessarily boys in those. And I remember hating that for my little brother, because like, so for me, I was homeschooled for 5 years. And so when I was trying to encourage my little brother to read, like, I think what got him hooked was like Captain Underpants. But you know, ain't nobody Black in that. Like there was
Right.
no, there were no Black characters in that. And that was really like my brother's biggest beef with reading, is he was not that kid that would be like, I can imagine myself as this character, even though this character isn't describing. Like my brother was not that person. Like, nah, if they not Black, then I can't imagine myself as them. It's funny, but it's not the same. Right. It's not. And so,
it's just not. It's just not.
If we're being real, they say stuff we wouldn't say. They do things we wouldn't do. They react in ways we wouldn't react. So it is hard to put yourself in that position sometimes.
Right.
Because I don't know, for me, I would read and be like, I would not do that. Ooh, I would get slapped.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly.
Where's the logic? Like so many different things.
Right. And some of the heroes where it's like, dear child, if you are a Black person, an average Black person on the street, and people start running in the opposite direction you're walking, that's where you're going. Like literally, I have a friend from college, and we used to joke about it all the time, about these silly white girl heroines we're supposed to be rooting for. And it's like, listen, I don't want no harm to come to you, but that seems foolish to me as I was reading it. Like, if Black people, the ones that I grew up with, people start running that way, I'm running, talking, where we going? What's happening? Like, right. I'm gonna ask you that on the way.
Right. We've all seen the comedy skits where you just see somebody running and you're running without asking questions. You like, what? Oh, we all move? Okay, let's just go. Like, it's just what we do. Like, no, there are like rules. And the thing is I don't think, like, I think it's interesting how people don't realize that there are just things that we as Black people do, no matter what continent we come from, no matter what country we come from. It is just something, there are some things that we all do collectively. And one of those is, if everybody going in one direction, we don't care if our mission was in that direction. No longer is that where we need to be headed. No, like
it's changed. The mission has changed.
Right. No, I see God said not to go that way. Like that was my revelation.
That's the message. Don't miss the message.
Right.
Don't miss the message. So no, I definitely agree. And just some like conversations with parents where I'm like, who's living through that conversation though? Like, who's talking to parents like this and living to have a whole book about what you did after the conversation? Where's the after?
Right.
Where is the after? Like that kind of stuff where it's like the entire book is a fantasy for me. Like, it's not just the magic that's the fantasy, it's the fact that you're behaving this way and living that is also part of the fantasy for me, where I have to suspend disbelief about average normal conversations where it's like, but if I said that to my mom, I would just be gone, and that's just what it is.
I would cease to exist. I would be like it was a regular threat to end up on a milk carton if I said something that just wasn't supposed to be said. Like, or these like stories where like the kids are all in the grown folks conversation and just like telling, like, that's, yeah, no.
You're even in the room and they're like, dismiss yourself.
I'm about to be 30 and I still wonder about if I can like comment on certain things in conversation. Absolutely. Like, am I old enough to be a part of this conversation? Is this for grandparents only? Do I have to have kids to be a part of this conversation? Like, there are levels to the entry of the conversation in the Black family. Like, there are.
It's a hierarchy. Sorry, like all this disrupting power, that's real cute. But in the Black family, we're not disrupting a darn thing.
Respect is supreme.
That's it.
Anything that's seen as disrespectful, no matter what age you are, is wrong. Like,
right. And my dad literally, like, as I was growing up, was like, it doesn't matter when you do get to be 30. I will always be the exact same amount of years older than you as I am today.
right now. Right.
It's not going to change. So you need to find a way to deal with it. This is your life. Like, that's just what it is. And I feel like those conversations are not happening in books. And just to go back to something that you said about children being children, I literally had a whole conversation with Faith U today and was like, we don't let Black kids be kids. And by we, I mean like societal forces. It's just
societal forces. Yeah.
It's just not done. And you see it in the literature where I'm like, and this is why, shout out to FireCon. FireCon, their first online convention today, and they talked about bringing the auntie character. They talked about, I love it. No, I love it. They talked about bringing the auntie character back and like the importance of her. And I'm like, the importance of all these Black family members who are important to the everyday workings of life. Like, aunties have roles, cousins have roles. Like,
aunts are huge, especially the single aunt with no kids. That is your most important aunt in your family.
That's the ally right there. Talk about allyship.
I'm the single aunt with no kids. My nephew, the last time that he got to like spend the night with me was 5 years ago. Do you know, I just talked to him to tell him happy birthday. And Annie, can I come spend the night again in your house? I had so much fun. That was 5 years ago. That is implanted in his brain. Like, yes. That is his thing. Like, yes. Like,
yes.
That is a critical character.
Absolutely. And exactly. Where I'm just like, you don't always have to go outside the home to find your mentor who's going to lead you through whatever like major shift your character has to have. Like, there are people in the family who do that. And it's a matter of course, and sometimes it's a matter of survival. Now, it doesn't always have to be, and I am honestly sick of the stories where it always is a matter of survival, because Black life, I don't want to read about Black life always being in precarity. Like, I'm not trying to always read about some Black person about to be dying. That's not what I want. Yeah. But as far as like the importance of these characters, I just remember hearing, and not even just from my mom, just hearing around where it's just like in the air, let them kids be kids. Like, and who is saying that and who is not? It is Black mothers, it is Black grandmothers, like it's them who are saying, let them kids be kids. Now, to the kids, they demand respect, but there's also some protection of childhood that these mother and mother figures demand that society does not respect, making Black girls women early, hypersexualizing them.
Making Black boys men.
Yes,
a Black boy does something at 15 and everything we read is a Black man. But we got Kyle Rittenhouse, who is actually 17 and he's a teenager. Mm-hmm. He's a teenager, but in any other case, these Black boys are Black men. Like, no, it's our skin that makes you think that we grow faster than everybody else, right? And you use that as your excuses for things. Like, when I did a video talking about like different things about diversity in writing, and it's about the different types of Black female characters that people write, not realizing that they're causing more harm than good. So like the stereotypical strong Black female that can't be weak, that can't show emotion, that doesn't bode well for those little Black girls who are reading that character and think that this is how they have to be. No. And
I love how you said that, like, because it gestures to a trajectory of these stories beyond what we assign them, especially on BookTube. And I was just saying this at Ashley's live last night. People want to talk about race and sexuality and gender. They want to have those conversations in the context of hood feminism, how to be anti-racist. And these certain texts, right? Like, they only want to talk about race when it's in a text of critical race theory. And it's like, America was founded on racial capitalism and a racial hierarchy. how are we having any conversation where race just ceases to matter, even if you choose not to bring it up? But we don't talk about race in general. Like, it's not part of our general analytic for how we talk about books when we're rating them, when we're writing. Like, it's just not a part of the matter of course conversation.
And it definitely should be. It should be a part of the conversation.
Exactly. To talk about how important it is beyond that book. Like, it's not just the book and the author and canceling the author. Who is reading that, and what do they think that means that they have to do? Like, there's a life to books beyond their publication date. When it's out there in the world and it's interacting with people, okay, now it's having an effect on what children, on what little Black girls or on little Black boys, especially for little Black boys, if they don't see themselves at all. What does that do? Like, you literally erase them out of existence. Like, what are they looking at?
Right. Or then when you put them in there, you put them in such negative situations that is what that it is. Like okay, so a good example for me is like Black stories in media, in like movies and television and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So I love, and I will always respect the room that Tyler Perry created for Black actors and actresses in the starting of his company and everything that he did. I will always respect that.
Mm-hmm.
But it also showed such a bright light on nothing but Black pain and Black anguish and Black struggle that it became synonymous to other people that this is what the Black life is. And if you don't tell a story just like this, then it can't possibly be a Black story because it has to have these elements. Exactly. And that's not true.
Exactly. And that's the thing where people are like, especially because Tyler Perry has a very particular demographic. And I mean, the man knows, like, business minded. He knows what he's doing. Right. And he, like, because his demographic is very, very clearly Black middle class Christians, like, who have like a Christian background. Like, there's always a biblical message in there. The scene that changes it all is going down at church with a full choir background. Like, he knows who his audience is. And those are the people that ride for him till the day they die. Sun up, sun down, Tyler Perry, period. And it's like, yes, to your point, absolutely. There were so many people that we know and don't who got their first job from Tyler Perry. And what can you say to that, right? Like, the jobs weren't and still aren't there sometimes. And he makes space, and we have to appreciate that. And you made the space, and that's great. Is there never space to tell a different kind of story, as if Black life is only ever fraught? Like, can there ever be a time where the story's catalyst does not center on trauma? Like, Diary of a Mad Black Woman, I mean, I love Shamar Moore, so I'm glad he's in it, but watching that woman get drugged out of her house by her husband on their anniversary, hated it. Like, hated it. And hate the fact that, like, who gets cast, and this conversation is old. Like, who gets cast as what? He casts darker skinned men as the cheating people, the evil people, the manipulative people, and then the lighter skinned character comes in and saves the day. And it's like colorism and Tyler Perry stuff is like, that's an old conversation. But I do think,
honestly, I think that goes back to being business minded, because if you watch his plays, it was the other way around. And the plays, more times than not, the dark-skinned man was the winner of the thing. Like, I want to say Diary of a Mad Black Woman is still played out that way. But when it was like the play of like Medea's Class Reunion, the dark-skinned Black man was good. He also played a bad guy in a different one. Like, it changed for that. But I also think that goes to show there's a different type of storytelling in Black plays and Black movies. Because me personally, I love his plays. I'm not a fan of his movies. And I love his plays because the storytelling is, one, completely different, and two, he could take you to church in a play in a way that he couldn't in movies, because you still have to be marketable to the masses in a great way when it comes to movies. And so I think that goes to also the market as a Black creator, because for me, my issue with a lot of primetime Black television shows is the way they cast Black dark-skinned women, and how she has to be a Jezebel, and how she has to be sexually explicit and sleeping with somebody else's husband and cheating on her husband and all these other things that they don't do with light-skinned Black female characters in shows. Like, they specifically regulate that to that skin tone. And I think that has a lot to do with what Hollywood, or the majority, wants to see, as well as trying to do representation. I feel like for some people it's like if this is how we got to get in, this is how we got to get in.
Yeah. It's like, okay, but we've been here. Like, it's not like this is day one of representation where it's a win just to have a non-white person. Like, that's no longer a win. Right. And it hasn't been a win for a long time. Like, it should not be a win for someone who is my skin color to be like, this is the representation. And they go lighter than me all the time. And it's like, okay, but none of y'all look like my sister. None of y'all you don't look like my grandmother. Like, you don't look like the people that I love. And you barely look like me, because even if they are my skin color, their hair does not look like mine. If they're
your skin color, they're mixed.
Exactly.
Like,
their hair doesn't look like
I am not taking anything from Yara Shahidi, but I'm just saying.
You're gonna make me drink all my tea in the first 15 minutes.
Well, you know, we got a song for that. We got a song for that.
Would you like to listen? People, you're in for a treat. KaShay, come on. All
right. So we have this little tradition on my channel that whenever someone says something, and like right now, I don't have no tea, but if I did, it would be hot. And so that's the song. And it goes a little like, I ain't got no tea, but if I did, it would be hot. I said, I ain't got no tea, but if I did, it would be hot. I said, I ain't got no tea, but if I did, it would be hot. 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 I think, first of all, when it comes to Blackish, Marzay Martin is the best actress on that entire show. The one that plays Diane, the best actress on that entire show for me. But I feel like Yara is getting a lot of shine for being like a young Black actress right now. And I think that everybody overlooks the fact that a lot of the young Black actresses that are getting shine right now are all multiracial. Like, they're always biracial or more. That there are not, like, we don't see them pushing Sky Jackson like we see that. We don't see them pushing Marzay like they push her. Like, it's different. And it's because it's what's palatable to everybody else.
Right. And it's really a push towards this tan fetishization that everyone is so caught up. It started years ago, like, oh, by 2050, we're all going to be mixed. And it's like, now listen, this is going on my channel, so I'll say what I want, and here's the truth. I value Black families. Debate your aunt.
Supreme for me, so I'm right there with you.
Find someone else. If you get reckless in my comments, it'll give me 3 years back on my life to delete it, so don't even try. So that's just what it is. These are the rules. I make them. I value Black families. I'm not looking forward to a future where Black people don't
exist. That's not okay with me.
Who's wanting that?
Like, so for me personally, like, that's what we've been moving toward ever since we gave absolutely. Black people slavery. Like, ever since we got rid of slavery, we've been moving towards eradicating Black people. Like, that's my personal belief. Like,
yes, if you're not profiting us, then why are you here?
Here is the number one reason why. How in the world were we majority of the people that lived in this country in 1865, and in 2020 we are 13% of the population.
Question for the culture.
In less than 200 years, we went from the majority because there were more slaves than there were actual American citizens at that time. So we went from that to 13%. At a time where we have never, I don't think in the last 200 and something years, I don't think we have went above a household reproduction rate of 2.5. So it's not like we were creating a whole bunch of, like there were a bunch of white babies being born and that's why. Like that's not what happened.
That's not what it is.
That's not what happened.
No.
So
you're right. And we're supposedly on average living longer. And yet there are less of us.
Let's clarify. Who lives longer? Caucasians live longer.
Everyone is living longer, but we are living less long than white people. Right. So even with us living longer, asterisk on longer, even with us living longer, the population is still decreasing. If you think that is not structural racism,
right,
you have decided to be blind. I can't help you. I can't help you if you want to be Stevie Wonder for Christmas this year. Figure it out yourself. But like that, all of that is very intentional. And storytelling is a part of that. Like storytelling reflects the culture. And I wish that in trad pub and in cinema that there were movies who were attempting to craft the culture instead of simply reflect the toxicity that is there. I wish we had aspirational movies that did hard work and not aspirational movies that bent on color blindness. I don't need you to not see me, baby. I'm beautiful. What blindness? Like, see all of me. I don't need you to hint me a different color to be able to see.
For me, it's you don't want us to be blind to your gender beliefs, so don't be blind to my racial beliefs. That's how I feel about it. If you believe that it is my job to acknowledge everybody based off of what they believe that they are and what they perceive and what they say that they are, then you owe me the respect to acknowledge my skin color and the things that it comes with.
I'm out of tea and look what you did.
I'm sorry. I
always have the cherries. Listen, but equity or not.
Right.
Why can we understand everything except race?
That I don't understand. Like that's always been my biggest thing. Like we can understand that it shouldn't matter what a female wears for her not to get raped or assaulted in any way, but we can't understand why it doesn't matter what a black man or a black woman is wearing and why their lives should still be alive. I don't understand it. And I don't.
What's different about it? Like, please make it make sense. But there's just not the effort put in at all. Again, unless it's in these moments of spectacle and spectacle, it makes me tired. It takes all of my energy. I'll be in bed for days off spectacle, for real. When people are just out here, out in the world and on the internet, on the YouTube, as I'm wearing my old
Al Gore's internet.
As me and my old looking glasses. This is Phyllis, my glasses. This is Phyllis. That's me and Phyllis over here, like on the YouTube. Listen, on the YouTube out here is spectacle, like trying to find a way to show us that you are not racist instead of just doing the work.
Right.
You don't need a receipt for doing the work.
That part.
You don't need a receipt for doing the work. You don't need to show me anything. I am not your accountant. I'm not going to hand you a card. I'm not going to clear your racist credit history. You got that, boo. Like whatever you've done, whatever you're growing from, grow from it, but don't do the work now to try to erase what's been done. Whoever you hurt, whatever you did, whatever you're dealing with, it always already happened. So let's just move forward from that. But then don't come and be like, oh, like I'm gonna subscribe to any Black author tuber or booktuber that I can find.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm Black and I'm not subscribing to any and every Black author tuber and booktuber I can find. So I don't expect you to do that.
Right.
Like that doesn't make me like. I'm be honest. Just because you subscribe to a bunch of black people is not gonna make me think you any less racist than I thought you were before I knew you subscribed to all of them.
Right. Right.
It like that. To me, I feel like that makes people feel better.
It does.
Like
Yes.
it makes you feel better, but it does nothing.
Not even for the creator, because you're subscribing to 50 and watching one every other week. Like,
right. That doesn't
help with channel analytics.
No, I legitimately have to set up specific hours out of the week to go and watch people's content, because I don't want it to just be I'm just subscribed to you. Like, no, I want to be giving you that watch time. Like, I make it my business that if you are a monetized Black creator, I'm gonna sit through your ad. I'm gonna sit through and let them watch it, because I know that there's somebody else who's not doing that. And hey, if I can help put a couple of cents in your pocket, I'm gonna do that. But it don't make me feel any type of way if you do or don't do that as a white consumer. Like it doesn't. Like I don't think about it. I'm gonna be legitimately honest. I don't think about it. No, I don't be like, oh, I wonder if white people are subscribing to Black people right now because Black lives still matter.
And that's the thing. It's like I don't like when it's Black lives still matter time. There is no time for Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is an infinite statement that never ceases to be in effect. And the fact that we have to proclaim that at certain times, always after the freaking eulogy, always after the death, always after the shots fired, always after the cop is going free, then Black Lives Matter. What? It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense that Black Lives Matter after the death. Why don't Black Lives matter when we're walking down the street before the death? That should stop you from pulling the trigger, but there are no consequences. All you have to do is wait the protest out. All you have to do is stay in your house. You can completely ignore the waves of protest, depending on what
you've been doing before now.
Not the first time.
What caught me off guard was everybody acting like George Floyd was the first time we saw a Black man get killed on camera.
I didn't understand it at all.
Like when people were making videos and just crying, oh my God, I've never seen this. 4 years ago, when Philando Castile and Alton Sterling were killed on camera.
Like, weren't the news stations playing that footage?
Over and over. You know what happened? You know why people weren't? Because then all of a sudden we had this anonymous Black dude who supposedly shot up Dallas and all these cops out of nowhere, and then oops, it's all over. We didn't forgot about it.
Well, Black rage.
No, you forgot about it because your skin color didn't look like this.
Because you don't have any stains.
I didn't forget those men's names. I didn't forget the depression, the anxiety, the things that overwhelmed me when that happened. Like living in a state that's as red as Oklahoma. Like growing up in the town that Black Wall Street, like the destruction of it happened. Like that's all I've known is that fear of what white people could do to me as a Black person.
Right.
So like that time, like to me, that was worse than George Floyd, because by the time George Floyd happened, I was already at the point where I'm not watching no videos.
Absolutely.
Like that's the difference between you and me. I can't sit there and watch that over and over.
I don't know how you are. Like, it's weird for you to turn a camera on for me to even watch you cry, and you wonder if I've watched the footage.
Right.
It's so outside of logic that I'm like, you're telling me that you thought about this enough to get a camera to record it, and the entire walk down the hall to the camera, the entire time you were staging yourself, this never occurred to you as something that was unnecessary. Never, not one time. It does it. The performance of it. All people are saying like performative activism and whatever, and sure, I just have an aversion to crowdsourced words that people are like everyone's using. I'm like, that gets out of control.
Yeah, no, I'm on that too.
It gets out of control. But the spectacle it is very tiring, because then they look at whatever Black person for absolution. And I didn't leave my house but to go to church. Well, no, I think we were still quarantined at that time. I didn't leave my house for like, I could go a solid 7 days and not even unlock my front door. Went nowhere. I was like, I'm not going to any protest. I'm not leaving my house. Like, I'm very, very, very exhausted right now. And I just can't take it. And like, it's people cope how they cope. So for the Black people that went out there and were like, I have to do what you need to do to cope and to move through this world that we're living in whatever way. But I was at a point where I was like, I'm just tired. This happens like clockwork every 2 to 5 years, and then like 10 to 25. Like it just happens all the time. And every time people were like, this is gonna be the last one. People were acting like Trayvon Martin was gonna be the last one.
And for me, Trayvon Martin was like the first. Trayvon Martin was like the start of when it just got.
When we started catching them.
Right. When it got to the point where everybody is like, nope, we're recording everything. We're recording everything. We're showing everything like that. And I remember I was in college, and I remember watching that and trying to figure out how at any point in time, the fact that you killed somebody didn't get you arrested.
Exactly.
Or how this boy had a cell phone on him. He's a teenager. What teenager don't got their parents' number programmed in their phone? Like, y'all didn't call his parents immediately when y'all found his body? His parents didn't know for weeks. Like, there were so many different things. And I just remember being like, this is the beginning. Like, I remember sitting in the university in our like coffee shop and looking at it, and I was like, this is the beginning. And it's almost been 10 years since that young man was killed.
And people are still surprised. And that's what I don't have energy for. Because surprise takes energy, really. Like, surprise takes a lot of energy. And even just watching fill in the blank white person on whatever platform in real life, like, and I go to a PWI in life and on screen, because it's tiring. It's tiring and it's ridiculous. Yeah. I can't believe I've never seen. That's fine, but why do you feel the need to tell me about it? Because I don't care. Like, this is not new for me. I'm not your minister.
I hate the did you know moments. Did you know? Yes.
Which is just the height of ignorance and arrogance. What do you mean that I know? I'm a whole Black person.
Right.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't handle it. I wanted to leave my apartment. I was like, I can't handle it, and I'm not a nice person. I really try, but most of the time, the most Christian-like thing for me to do is to let the Holy Spirit constrain my voice. Just take it away. So I can just stay inside, because I was like, not today. Not today, Satan. You're on a rampage. I can't do it.
And that for me is why I can't read those stories, because there's too much of that in my own life that I can't, like, for me, reading has always been an escape. It has always been a way to get away. And if everything I read about people that look like me is how they're living in this hell that we're living in right now, I just
dying in it.
I would be depressed. Like, I'm sorry, I've never read The Hate U Give, because I can't.
I haven't read it either. I can't. It's not even on my TBR.
I can't see it. I can't because like
I didn't even watch the movie. I was like, I simply can't.
No, especially when I saw, like, there were different things. Again, another one, Amanda Sternberg. I think she's a great actress. I actually think she's a great actress. I don't think Yara is a great actress, but I actually think Amanda is a great actress. And she's another one of those where it's easier to pass her on and let her be the face of like Black actresses, just like Zendaya. Like, it's just easier for people.
Hold on, we have to stop here. Because I genuinely am confused. Why are people trying to induct Zendaya into Blackness? Does she have a Black parent? Is she biracial?
Yeah, I thought she had a Black dad. I thought.
Okay,
we can look at her.
All
We can
right.
look-
Listen, don't at me in the comments. I ain't watched Zendaya in a whole minute, but I did not know that she was biracial. So when people were like,
Yeah, no,
"Oh,
I always knew she was biracial. Her dad is like dark like me.
okay, nothing further, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Nothing further. I see him. I mean, I
Yeah.
saw him the first time he black,
Yeah.
but okay, yeah, no, I didn't know. But
Yeah,
that
he's
doesn't
African.
make any sense to
Kazembe
me.
Ajumu Coleman. That's her daddy name.
What is it?
Kazembe Ajumu Coleman.
Oh, he black.
Yeah, he black.
Okay, cool. But yeah, no, it's definitely a fetish with tan that can be passed off as black because black is still exotic, but we don't want anyone who is fully black, that's what gets me when people are like, oh, and like this is I am not mixed race. I don't have that cross to bear, and I don't have that split of like belonging versus not belonging in each set. Like I don't have it, but I do just think that it's interesting the way that when the conversation's about mixed people, it's always, well, they're black too. But you cannot deny the disparity in treatment, but in media between mixed race black people and people who present black and like have two black parents. Like you can't, the disparities in the statistics, like it's just there. And so essentializing blackness, no, there's nothing to be gained from essentializing blackness. That doesn't mean that we can afford to ignore the disparities that exist for black people living under a particular set of conditions, even if those conditions are familial of having two black parents, your hair is kinkier and coilier, your skin is darker, like you don't look mixed.
We have to be honest in the fact that we can't deny that our first black president, our first black female vice president were both biracial black people.
Exactly.
Like there is something to be said about people being okay with diluting blackness in order to say that blackness is acceptable.
Now, yes.
That is definitely a thing. One I've always stuck to, there's a Wale line, and it's from a song called Shades that he did with Chrisette Michelle. And he says, what if Barack's skin was all black? Truthfully, would he be a candidate or just a black in community? And legitimately, we could see in the difference in which people treated him and the way people treated his wife.
We could just stop right there as a period.
Right.
Like
there was like legitimately in the way people treated him and the way people treated his wife, which makes no sense. In his wife was his superior at one point in time, and I want to say is by far the most educated first lady we've ever had. I want to say there was only one that came close to her in education wise. So like the disrespect that she got solely came from her skin color.
Yep.
Not from anything she done. No, there was no.
You can't touch anything she's done. Not a scandal to be.
Nothing. Not a thing.
Not a freaking scandal to be found.
Right.
Couldn't touch it. So you had so racism was all you had because she gave you nothing else.
Right.
Nothing else. Active, educated, active, classy first lady, elegant. Can say nothing about her and continues to be active even after the presidency. Some first lady, like their first lady when they're first lady, and then afterwards they fall off. Like they're just like, back to my day job, leave me alone. She's still doing advocacy. She's still trying to reach out. Like she's about the work, the life of the work. And people are still acting like it's not just on period that Michelle Obama is one of, if not the best first lady that we've ever had.
Yeah, because I definitely said the best that we've ever had, period. Like, you're not gonna be able to point to one that did more. Because the one y'all probably gonna point to,
what is wrong with you?
Right. The one y'all gonna point to her husband did Reaganomics, so I'm done. Like, because that's what y'all gonna point to, Nancy Reagan and what she did with Derek. Because that's always the first lady they bring up with being active in the community, and we already know what the war on drugs did. Matter of fact, did we just not get a company to admit that they did the opioid crisis, but we still can't get y'all to admit what y'all did for crack? Okay. Okay.
Are we not telling the truth today? No truth? Okay.
I'm just saying, because I mean, there's no cocaine fields in America, right? So, like, how we get them over here?
Where did it come from?
Questions that he answered.
I'm just saying, this is a story. Plot holes are all over the place. Plot holes all over the place. That's all I have. That's my note. Plot holes. Right. You need to fix them.
Yeah, so I know like an author that I have like fallen in love with her stories, and I want to find a Black author. Like, so she's Black, but she is a multiracial Black author. Okay. And so her name is Elizabeth Acevedo, and I love her. I love her. I love her storytelling. I love it.
Yes.
But all her characters, like it's the nuance of what her life is, of being Afro-Latina. Afro-Latina. So because of that, the stories I can relate to a little bit, but not as much, because I don't have that full spectrum of that character because of that. But I think it's amazing because what it does do is it gives you young Afro-Latina stories that are about triumph, that are about growing up and being good, and they are not circled around trauma.
Yes.
Like none of her stories are circled around trauma, and I love it. Yeah. I love it. And I want to find a Black author that does that for Black girls and Black boys, just in general. And and specifically for me, contemporary, because I don't like that in so many stories, we have to leave our world to find happiness and peace as Black characters. That is a personal thing for me. And I know that part of it is because for a lot of us, it is this world we live in and wanting to be accurate. But I feel like just because we're Black doesn't mean we don't have happy moments. Like, right, like we have the struggle of being Black in America, right? But our lives are not all struggle for us personally.
And that's the thing for me. It's like, listen, I know it's hard for you, white person, to fathom the fact that when you're not around, life continues. But life continues in a big way when you're not around. Matter of fact, life get popping when you ain't around because we ain't no mixed company no more. Like, right. Because you don't know what happened.
Because I promise I'm a completely different person when it's nothing but Black people.
That just is what the caveats, even the 1.5 caveats that we've given on this conversation, they wouldn't even happen if it hadn't been going on YouTube, which is automatically mixed company.
Exactly. Right.
They would not have even been. They wouldn't have been necessary.
Right, because we all would have known what the caveats were without them having to be said. Because again, there are things about being Black that are unspoken and unanimous. We all know.
You are like, that's just what it is. And no, we 1000% we agree. Like, that's just what it is. That's why we're doing these conversations. I'm like, listen, Ujima. But I agree. And I wish that those stories were predominant, where like I didn't have to Google for it. Because I said this in a video before, Google is not an educator. Google is a search engine. And we've already seen over and over again that search engines, that code can be racist, because who writes code? People.
Right. Exactly.
People. Like, we're not in 1984. There is no like disembodied whatever big brother that is like doing even now, like
it's human.
Right, like these things have structures and plans. Nothing is happening without some serious intentionality. I don't know why people are so invested in denying that. It makes no sense to me. But I absolutely wish that I didn't have to go to Google and say like Black boy joy stories, Black girl. Like, I don't want to have to Google that and then get whatever Google gives back to me and then filter through that for what I like.
Because then it's their interpretation of what a Black boy joy story is or a Black girl magic story is. And for me, what a lot of people want to read is not at all what I want to read.
You might give me the hate you give. What about that is Black, like, what?
Right.
You like all that you're seeing as a search engine is actionable things.
Right.
Which is Black boy, Black
and honestly,
girl,
as a
like,
search engine, you are searching for tags on things. So if someone tags it as Black boy joy, regardless of if it's in it or in that story, you're gonna pull it up because that's what you're searching for.
Right.
So that doesn't help me at all.
Right. Not an educator. You're just throwing things back. Whatever you find, like, it's not the same, but that's what we have to do to find Black stories that are that don't center around trauma. Like, it's hard to name them, and that's part of the reason why I'm really genuinely excited about a lot of the Black debut writers that are did I say debut? Did I say debut?
It sounded like you said debut. Like, I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it.
Okay. That's why I'm so excited about a lot of Black debut writers that are coming out, like our very own Lizelle Stanberry.
I'm excited for Blood Like Magic. I'm excited.
If you're watching this video and you are not subscribed to Lizelle, you are slipping, and that's just the truth of it.
Yeah, that's a fact.
That's just the truth. She makes amazing content with amazing editing. She's doing amazing things. You need to subscribe and watch. And also, if you're a writer, like, she gives wonderful advice.
To be honest, she's one of the only traditionally published people that I feel like in the author community gives you real actionable advice. Like, she's the only person I've seen who's actually put her entire query letter out there for you to see,
yes,
see how she created it. She's the only one who's had like the conversations about like finding an editor or what she did, like all those things. And
taxes.
I appreciate that solely because for AuthorTube that I'm aware of, she's the only Black traditionally published one I know of.
Yeah, I don't know of anyone else.
And so for me, like, the fact that she does that is like, for me, that's her way of, I want us all to win. So I'm gonna put this information out here so someone else can see it and hopefully it helps them. And
we love that. Listen, we love that. I'm eating, you eating class. Like, where's you from? If I'm eating, we eating.
Everybody eats.
Like, if we got to break this crack into 22 pieces,
right.
Pass it along. Like, I guess we just have a communion today.
I have is no sitting at the table if you bringing nothing to it. That's the only rule I have. Thank you, Lil Wayne. Yeah, that's the only rule I have. If you're gonna be at the table, you gotta bring something to it. But if you
besides your plate,
right? Besides your plate, because man,
that's a whole other conversation. But the moral of that little aside was to go subscribe to Lizelle Stanberry. Shout out to her for making quality content. We appreciate. But no, I think that this conversation about storytelling is so important because all of this has had to do with storytelling. Like, even the parts where it's like, oh, are they getting distracted by like current events? Listen, if you don't take anything else from this conversation, please know that you're living in a story. Like, I made the joking comment of like plot holes in the story, but listen, narrative binds your life whether you know it or not, and you better know it.
And specifically, if you're watching this, you have to understand that what happens in the real world affects how people accept Black stories.
Exactly.
Right. So the Black Panther coming out meant that people were looking for an influx of Black Panther stories and the Black writers, because oh my gosh, Black Panther is popular right now, so we know Black people are going to be wanting to buy books, so we got to let some Black people in. So we have to look at current events, because what is going on in the real world determines what the majority is going to find acceptable from us.
Exactly. It determines the
That's
market.
why The Hate You Give did as well as it did. It came out at a time where highlighting the fact that Black children are being killed by police officers was a big thing.
Right. It is all about narrative. It is always about narrative. What people tell you is always their interpretation. And so when we're talking about diversity in Black storytelling, it's not just what you're reading in a book. It's how do people How does society frame Black life, or the lack thereof, or the impossibility thereof? And that's what it really is. The way that we talk about Black stories and the way that we talk about Black life makes it seem as if it's a fantasy, makes it seem as if it's impossible or very, very temporary and in close, overdetermined relationship to death, and to violent premature death at that. That's the narrative about Black life, is that it doesn't really exist, that it happens. And we need Black stories to counteract that and to tell the truth, which is like, Black life happens at the kitchen table, Black life happens in the barbershop, Black life happens at salons, Black life happens at the cookout that everyone always trying to get to. Like, Black life happens in the car when you're in the kitchen learning grandma's recipe. Like, Black life happens in discrete places that are not available for public consumption for someone to just walk into your kitchen. But the assumption that it doesn't, I'm just gonna say, is racist. And I don't throw around racism all the time. Do I? Maybe I do. Anyway, it's racist because that's an assumption that like Black life exists to be in relationship to whiteness.
Yeah, and I think one of the things for me is the assumption that the way we act in public is the way that we act in private.
Tomfoolery and shenanigans.
The way that you write the stories, like I've seen, like even in shows, like stuff that we wouldn't ever dare say in front of certain people.
Right.
Like there are certain things that we just don't do.
Politics.
And, right. And it's just the way that, like, it's because of, I think I was watching or reading something, or no, I had somebody reading something of mine and they were Caucasian and they remarked at how many times my character said, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, miss, mister.
Talking to whom?
An older person.
What are they supposed to say? Yeah.
And the person's comments were, well, this doesn't need to be there all the time. This is just so formal and nobody really talks like that. No, we do talk like that. We do, very much so. I am 30 years old and I still am yes, ma'am, yes, sir, no, ma'am, no, sir, to someone that's older than me or someone who is in a position of authority over me.
Right.
That's
just what it is.
It's ingrained in me to do. It's not something I can stop myself from doing. I just do it because I've been doing it my whole life.
Right. That's the training.
That is legitimately what it's like to be Black. But if you are not Black and you read that, that's formal to you. Because that's something about Black life and Black culture that you don't understand. Now, there are some Black people that don't do that, but it's not that. The majority are very respectful because that's how they were raised, to be very respectful. Especially
if you're in the South. Like, I'm from Arkansas. Right. You're not about to be all out here saying yes to somebody. And honestly, my mom was strict on even saying yes.
There had to be a ma'am at the end of it. And if you're talking to your uncle or aunt, it better be uncle or aunt before their name. You can't just say
put a handle on it. You better put a handle on it. What?
Right. There is a title for everybody. Like, no.
What? Who's putting a handle on the name? Like, wow. That's when I get it where you did it. Like, they're going to do it in front of that person so that person knows I fixed her for you. Like, it senseless. And that's the thing where it's like you assume that you have such access to Black life that you know all of these politics, even though you don't actually think about Black life. You don't consider Black life. You assume that Black life is that easy to get. That has honestly, no politics.
Real, for most people, unless you've actually lived in a Black home, you've always got a censored version of being Black.
Because we're not gonna say it to you. Like, you are the mixed company.
Right. There are just things. My very best friend, we have been friends, it will be 20 years next year. 20 years. There are still things that I don't just readily say in front of her because that's not how I was raised. That's not how I was taught. Mm-hmm. There are things that you don't showcase to people who do not look like you, who do not understand the politics and the ramifications of the things that you are going to say and going to do. Like, that's how it is. And I think when we get to this point where we're like, we want to see more representation, I think what I mean when I say that is I want to see more Black writers. I'm not saying I want to see more Black characters in books, because I don't want someone that doesn't look like me trying to write a character that it looks like me. That's my personal thing. Because for me, I would rather you push someone who is Black, who wouldn't get a chance to tell that story, to tell that story. Because I promise you, I'm not trying to tell any white person's story, period. Like, that's not going to be a thing that I do, because that's not something that I understand. And to act like it's no different from telling a Black person's story and telling a white person's story is the travesty that you do to young Black readers.
I do think that, and I mean, I have seen, I don't understand it, but I've seen it. Black writers write a cast of white characters and one or two Black ones. It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not doing that, but I have seen them do it. And I will say that I do think that a Black writer can write a white character far easier than
sure, because that's all we've been exposed to.
That's the culture.
That's all we've been
that's
exposed
the mainstream.
To. Right.
So I think the ability to do it is there. I just don't have the will.
And I think the ability to do it is there is because legitimately for most people, the default character is Caucasian.
Absolutely. If you're not describing skin tone, they assume it's white.
And you never describe them, most people would just assume that character was white. Absolutely. And you could just continue on what you're doing. And I think that's what they think it is to write a Black character. Throw a little bit of slang in there, maybe mention a hood song or two, and there you go.
With no thought to where that, who that Black person is, or where they're from, what kind of rap do they listen to?
Right. Because
who would they even know?
Right. Do they listen to rappers or do they listen to MCs? They're not the same.
Lack of nuance, which if you can't do that, no one is asking. I'm not asking for you to write that character. No. I'm asking for you to move out of the way and let someone who you were almost surely blocking write that character.
Right.
It doesn't have to be you.
Right.
It doesn't have to be you. So no, I definitely think, and all of this goes back to the fact that the narrative is not just in the books. The books are reflecting a piece of a narrative. We're all living in the narrative. The fact that Black people are so concerned about make sure that you're respectful, make sure you dress like this, make sure you say all of these things. We were talking about politics and who's in the room. All of that is because representation has always overdetermined the possibility of Black life. How you look, how you act is part of how they treat you, because if you look good, they're going to treat you like an animal. But you could be wearing a silk dress and a tux and it doesn't matter. Right. So the fact that if for anyone who's this is all representation, no respect, this is what it is for narrative and representation to control your life chances.
Yeah.
And that's the world that we're living in, if you've been paying attention to the plot of the story at all, because really the original plot of the story in America has never changed.
Ever at all.
Has never, ever changed. It's just literally ups and downs, but it's it's gonna end on a down note. Even if there's some up, it's eventually it's coming down, because that's what the plot of the story, that's the intention of the story.
Right.
That is the intention of the story. And so that's why this conversation about diversifying Black stories is so important to me, because yes, we could talk about it for hours just talking about books, but we could also talk about it for hours and never mention books and still be talking about diversifying Black stories and what readers mean when they say that. 1000%. So.
And I think it's important because when I think about Black storytelling and stuff, I think about the books that I read when I was younger. So I think about The Color Purple, and I think about Mildred D. Taylor, and I think about the way in which those Black writers told stories was so different than what I was reading by white authors.
Yeah.
And the way that we tell stories, just in general, it's so very different.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that I love about Black storytelling.
Yes.
And I love about, like, I love that for most of us, the way we tell stories is so, it deals so much with the way words are spoken
Absolutely.
and the
Oral
oral
traditions.
delivery. It's just, it's amazing to me.
Yes.
Like, I think that that is what makes the stories real for me and are important. And I think that that's one of the things that is lost when you have Black writers trying to write to market or trying to write so that they can be received by the masses instead of their voice. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes, yes, because that is why Save the Cat is so popular. And let me be clear, like,
Yeah,
I'm
definitely
reading
own
Save
it.
the Cat.
Definitely own it. And I'm reading it. So
I'm reading Save the Cat. Like,
not knocking it.
right. Like, let me be clear and transparent. I'm reading Save the Cat. It's helping me a lot. Like, it's helping me tremendously. And that is one way of telling stories. It's not the only way. It's not even the first way. Like, it's just not. And I just find it so interesting. If we could just stop by here for a second, how agents and publishers and editors, all of them are like, now you want non-Western, non-European POC stories. And it's like, well, here's the thing. You have not even plumbed the depths of Black life in the West, in Europe. Like, America is part of the cultural West. Like, it's you, if you're talking about you want stories, what you really mean is you want stories in the, like, Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Cuban, like the Asian diaspora. Like, you want to go away from America.
Right.
In continental Europe. That's
and unfortunately, that is disregarding a very large population of Black human beings.
Hello, like, and we don't all tell stories the same way either. Like, and I forget whose live I was in, but I think it was, I was somewhere where Jordan Ifweko was speaking, and she was saying, like, when we tell stories, take the cookout, since people love to be at the cookout. So when people are telling stories at the cookout, it ain't you don't have one narrator. You don't even have one narrator at a time.
No, it was Tracy Dion when she was talking about Livermore, and she was during the Y'all Rights, because she was talking about how, like, when there's a story going, there's someone else, and they'll start talking to be like, no, that's not what happened. This is what happened.
Yes, you get the revision in the moment. Ain't no next chapter. Right. What are you talking about? We're here right now. Right. Like,
so when I wrote the story Penelope's Curve and I sent it to the editor that wanted to edit it for me, one of the things that he kept mentioning was, like, different things he would talk about that were, like, colloquial. Mm-hmm. And he would, like, mention, like, this isn't necessarily wrong, but, like, it's something you should be aware of. But every Black person that read from the story that it was someone orally telling you a story that happened to them. So someone presently telling you a story that happened in the past. Mm-hmm. So it made sense, the tense changes and things like that. But it wasn't something readily known to a Caucasian person. Even someone whose job it is to edit. That wasn't something they readily saw. And it's because when I envisioned the story, I envisioned it being like how we orally tell stories to each other. Mm-hmm. That was what I saw, because to me, that is where storytelling started for me. Like, when I first started learning about stories, I was learning about, like, the 2 ways to count to 10, and why mosquitoes buzz in people's ears, and Mufaro's beautiful daughters. And all of those are written as someone telling you a story, like, as if you were sitting down in a group around a fire or in the living room, like, and that's
at the gathering. You're at a gathering with a live audience, and the audience is very loose. Like, it's anyone within earshot, and they're all welcome and expected to participate at one point or another. And so the separation that we try to, like, and by we I don't mean me, that, like, editors or publishers or agents attempt to impose, I'm just like, okay, like, I understand having the reader understand. And I also wonder, when is a good time to stretch our readers? Like, when is a good time to bring them up to a different structure of storytelling. So when someone does it, it's like you're not talking about the standard or the way it's done. You can give someone like, oh, yeah, like this is a way that we tell stories. Like, because do there need to be rules for it so that people can understand, so the reader still gets the story? Sure, fine. But like not doing that by foreclosing an entire tradition of storytelling that is built upon call and response and not being so dedicated to cleaning it up. Like, I know that we're not in literary fiction and we don't write in literary fiction genres, but what happened to trusting that the author is doing some stuff on purpose to mess with you? We don't do that in genre fiction with commercial fiction. We can't do that, because for me,
I feel like when we do, we get a 3-time Hugo Award winning Ninkei Jemisin. Because that's exactly what she did.
Who is she answering to? Like, and I know that she has an editor.
The whole time in that book is completely someone telling you a story.
Yep.
In that entire series.
They use the second person. It's you.
It's amazing.
Yes. Yes. And I'm like, that's what can happen when we support the story that authors want to tell the way they want to tell it, and don't try to redact anything in any way. Like, let them tell you the vision and then get on board with making that happen and helping that manifest, not telling them how to do it, or like moving away from the story because it doesn't show up to the way that you think that it should. Like, there are multiple ways to tell a story and tell a story well.
Right.
There are multiple people I want to read a story where people are interjecting and revising in the moment, where someone is like, that is not what happened, and cut the narrator off and say, because that to me, I'm like, do you understand what you mean when you say European? Or are you just talking about different cosmologies? Because you don't have to leave America to find different ways to tell a story. Like, America is the inventor of storytelling, like that. Or like, do you have to go all the way to the motherland to get a different, like, you don't have to do that.
Here's my thing. For most of us that are writing, majority of us that are writing these stories aren't even from Africa. Like, we don't have that actual connection with Africa to be able, like, we're researching and then coming up with stories and things like that. It's not our story that we know. So that even in that, you're telling us that who we are is not good enough. Right. Like, you want us to go back to where we came from, like we weren't taken from there. Like, it's really, to me, I think it's a detrimental thing to tell Black American writers. Yeah. And like, this life that I was forced to have, this country that I'm supposed to love being in, because I shouldn't be here to begin with. My story isn't good enough. I need to write about this land that I don't know. Right. Which, like, I do the research. Like, I don't have a problem fundamentally with researching for the story, but it's like, you requiring me to do research so that I can tell a specific story that you can market, rather than I'm creating a whole new world that doesn't exist. Which, in that fact, why couldn't I have created a city in America that didn't exist, that didn't kill Black people? Like, why can't we fantasize joy? Like, why do we need to fantasize a mythical African kingdom for more war to take place in? Right. Or why does it have to be a mythical African kingdom that don't nobody know exists because we don't want it to be touched by Caucasians? Like, that's the whole point of Wakanda, if we being honest. It's a Black country that we let everyone think we don't have anything so that they don't come in to take everything. Right. And the fact that, like, Wakanda forever, rah, rah, none of us are getting into Wakanda. Right. Like, not even all Black people could get into Wakanda. Right. Which is the whole that knows that, like, they checking your tongue, like, where you come from. Like, come on. Right. Hey, but I mean, I'm not necessarily upset with it, because as we know, all kinfolk ain't kinfolk. Ain't kinfolk. Listen, I'm not mad. We not. I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about it. But Wakanda is the homeland. That is something we have to acknowledge, that Wakanda isn't for everybody. Look, everyone can't go to Wakanda. Everybody can't get in. It's like heaven. Everybody can't get in. I don't know what you want. I don't know what to say. It's just like I'm with Chris Brown. How you hating from outside the country? You can't even get in. Like, you can't.
And everyone was on some Wakanda Forever stuff, and I'm like, well, you wouldn't be going to Wakanda.
And the thing is, the crazy part is everybody was on some Wakanda Forever, right? Mm-hmm. But in order to be on Wakanda Forever, you would have to be okay with leaving other Black people behind. Like, that's the whole point. That was the whole point of Killmonger, is that he didn't want to be left behind solely because he was raised in a different country.
Right. And we see what that did.
But we also not going to get onto the fact that, you know, white America had to make a Black villain, because, like, for me personally, I was definitely on Team Killmonger because, again, I was like, no, because bottom line, like, me personally, I'm of the camp that, like, nah, let's sometimes you gotta make war to have peace. I'm in that camp.
Listen, we're already at war. If it's a worthwhile war to have.
And you can feel like that's a bad statement, but if you're American, you kind of gotta agree, because, again, Americans thrive off war.
I said we're always at war, so what's the difference? Right. Like, if this is actually a worthwhile war, and we fight if we already scrap it, the gun's already out.
Right.
We're just talking about which direction to point them in, for what purpose.
Right.
Okay. So we've said a lot. I have no idea how I'm going to edit this video together. I don't have a clue. But this has been our first writerly conversation. The next one.
We'll figure this out as the series goes. We'll figure out how to.
We will. We went from book stories to life stories to movie stories, like, and it's all connected. So, like, don't get it twisted. It's all connected. We're on topic the entire time. But I mean, it's a very broad and sprawling conversation that takes you to just all those places, about stories like Thug and Slay, and stories that we want that are like not that, and like also the not having the ability to read every Black author. Like, sometimes I just can't bring myself to witness it again.
I have a list on my refrigerator with like 50 Black authors that I had never heard of at the beginning of the year, and I've only gotten to maybe 10 of them. Like, it's a lot. There are a lot.
I mean, like, even if you know the stories, like, sometimes you just can't bring yourself to read it. Like, I can't bring myself to read Thug. When I saw what Slay was about, I was like, always happy for a Black woman to get to the bag. I don't know if I can read that either. I just don't know. Like, there are just certain conversations that I acknowledge someone needs to have. And so I'm happy that the book exists, but that doesn't mean that I need that conversation.
Grown is one of those for me. Like, I think that is great that it's a topic that is being handled. I don't think I will ever be able to read that book.
Tiffany Jackson's entire corpus just does that. Like, I literally have been on a 2-week break from Mondays Not Coming, and I'm like, oh, I need to go back and finish that. But like, it's just there are just some things that it is difficult to gaze upon. And I'm just like, and why do I need to? It's not like I'm reading that I don't already know the statistics of.
Yeah.
That's not the life that I'm living. Now, if it's like that you're living and you want it, neither of us are telling you not to go and read that book.
Right, at all. No, for sure.
Go your way. But that doesn't mean that, like, essentially, it's been said before, be discerning with what you read. Not that any of these people are like bad, but if you're only reading them to get brownie points and then you give them a bad review anyway, you would have been better off not reading and leaving them the heck alone. Like, or
like reading a Black thriller and then not calling it a thriller because it doesn't have the white thriller elements that you're used to seeing. Listen, when you have to realize that what's scary to us may not be scary to you. Like, I'm being honest, this vaccine is scary AF for me.
You said the vaccine?
This vaccine that they're gonna be pushing with this.
You're gonna bring trolls into my comments.
It scares me. It does.
Listen.
You might not even keep this in, so there's that.
Right.
But yeah, it does. Yeah, no. But it does scare me. It might not scare me.
I'm going to do what I do with new phones. New phones come out, you wait about a year.
Yes, I wait.
I wait for them to recall and then reissue it without the bugs. I'm gonna wait for some people to take that vaccine and give it some time to germinate, show some results, be recalled, tweaked, put out again, rinse, repeat.
Yeah. I mean, because you would be blind to if you said that it doesn't usually take vaccines 10 plus years to come on the market, and this one will come out in less than that time. So you gotta know that there's things we don't know about it. Like that would just be naive.
And I want to know who they're giving it to first, because to be very frank, if they're giving it to Black people first, I am not taking it.
Oh yeah, no, for sure I'm not. I think they're gonna give it to health workers first.
To who?
But that health workers first, and that scares a lot of me too, because then we lose all our doctors and nurses.
Right. What are we gonna do?
Right.
Give it to the president first.
Yeah.
If he's the one pushing it, then take it.
Yeah.
If you're the one pushing it, then take the vaccine.
Take it. I'm cool on it. I don't even get a flu shot, so yeah, I'm cool on it. I will stay my black tail in the house and just
I'll just quarantine. Like
I just quarantine. I was telling my brother the other day, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna stop wearing masks when I leave the house. Like, I don't think that's gonna be a thing I stop doing. I feel like I'm gonna be walking around like people in China that got masks on all the time.
It's indefinite from now on.
Right, because I just don't trust it now.
We've already seen it's fine.
Yeah,
like
y'all already pushed me to the point where, oh well, it's in the air now.
Right.
now. That's how I feel. It's in the air.
It's already out there. We are sorry. That era of life has passed where we walk around with no masks. It's over for me.
No.
It's over for me. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, we've just been enjoying ourselves.
Yeah, so I think we got enough.
I think we've got enough to tantalize y'all. I don't know what y'all are gonna say in the comments. I used to be trying to give a prompt about like, if you made this far in the video, put whatever. And I don't know what to say. Do you want them to say something?
Far in the video, tell me which dog you think is the cutest. Can you
well, they don't know their names.
Randomly got up here like when you were talking about that.
Hi. Well, is this Titan?
This is Titan. Yeah, this is Titan.
Okay, what's the other one's name?
Cleo. Cleo's the one barking.
Okay, so if you made it, oh my gosh, if you made it this far in the video, which do you think is the cutest? Cleo, who is right here, or Titan, who is the golden sunshine, who just went his, okay, there he is. This is Titan, and the black one is Cleo.
Oh. There you go.
Doggy love, what a good place to end. Okay, Literates, thank you so much. People migrating from to watch this, thank you so much. Quietly, please like this video if you liked this video. Give it a thumbs up. Pop down in the comments, let us know what you think. Be respectful or I will delete you and gain 3 years to my life. And if you have not already subscribed, feel free to subscribe to my channel if you're gonna watch. If not, and you just like the video, then you can like and move on, it's fine. All right, until next time, keep reading. Bye.
Bye. I do what you was doing. I was trying to